very important day for us. Before we continue, I would like to inform you all that we are streaming the event on Facebook. So we just start the streaming. So if anybody is uncomfortable for their face to be seen there or their name, so please switch off the camera. Otherwise, we would love to have your faces if you feel safe. And when we have the cameras on, we feel more like we are part of a community, and it's even though we are in our houses, in our homes, in our offices, or in bars, in cafes, again, through these videos, we feel a little bit closer to our community that we missed so much in the past 2 years. As you know, usually we organize the ERA conferences in physical space, and it's one of the most favorable, at least to me, and the biggest regional LGBTI event. But this year, unfortunately, because of the pandemic and also responsibly for the safety of all our members, we decided to go online. So today we have, in a way, combined two important events into one. The first event is the launching of a You Are Heard platform, a platform for documenting and reporting hate crimes and other incidents of hatred. And immediately after the presentation, the launching of this platform, we will have a panel discussion on access to justice that will be moderated by Amarildo from ERA. When we get there, Amarildo will introduce his panelists. I will be responsible only for the first part, and that is the launching of Your Heard platform. I see here in the audience many people who worked tirelessly to have this day today, to have finally reached this point when we actually launched the platform after 1 year almost of work. So I'm very happy that you're all here, and I hope that you will all join in later in the discussion and maybe bring a little bit from your experience and perspective into this. But before we get there, I'm very happy to first invite Amarildo, from the co-executive director from ERA, and immediately after him, Leanne McMillan, the director of Global at Stonewall, to give a few minutes each opening speeches to take us into the more technical discussion that we will have there. So first Amari, then Leanne, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Biljana, for the introduction, and hello to everybody. I'm also very happy and very excited that we've reached this this day and this moment of launching the platform, which, as Biljana said, is the result of more than a year of work from the first discussions with Stonewall to the inception and to the coming together of so many people, and then to the preparations, to the technical work and the content. So it's been quite a journey. Many people have been involved from all of these organizations, from the partner organizations, our members in each country of the region. I have to say that I'm happy for a lot of reasons. The first one being that, you know, we are a network association based in 9 countries, and it's not easy for a project to be you know, implemented or approved in 9 countries. And this is, I think, the one project where we have all 9 ERA countries in one. So I think this is a very milestone, I think, step for ERA to be able to do something like this, and also to address such an important topic, which is that of reporting hate incidents, hate crimes, and discrimination in a platform. I have to say that we didn't start from scratch. This is actually a very important part of the work of many of our member organizations. There are many of our members who have been collecting hate crime incidents, developing reporting platforms at the local level, having programs in their offices, having dedicated people in their teams and in their groups who report incidents and then who become part of this system of support in their own countries through legal aid, psychological support, strategic litigation, taking cases to court, advocating, and so on and so forth. However, we came together because we wanted to join forces and create something regional, and then to become thus able to become a stronger voice, to become a united voice, to be able to share good tools and good practices jointly, and to thus to let's say to make this to unite several small boats into a big boat of 9, where we then can advocate together, raise capacities together, analyze data together, and then tackle the issues also jointly. I don't want to be super long because there is a lot to discuss and to say, including the presentation of the reporting platform itself. But I just want to say that this the issue of hate incidents in our region is extremely problematic. At this point in time, it's not only in our region, but it's actually all over Europe. Hate crimes are increasing all over Europe and all over the world. So having a platform like this at this point in time is very important. We have legal improvements in the region. We have some legislative process and progress and so on and so forth, but challenges remain in the reporting of incidents, because state actors, for example, have very limited understanding very often of what these crimes are, how to classify them. There is poor communication between all the stakeholders that are supposed to defend citizens and provide them with the right support when hate crimes are reported. There is little community engagement, and there is also very slow processing of data and information. And we will hear from our panelists later today even more in detail about these problems and about these issues. So we are very hopeful that this platform will solve a chunk, a part of this very big issue, so that then we can continue with the rest of the work, as I mentioned at the beginning, with advocating with stakeholders and strategic litigation and data analysis and knowledge production and so on and so forth. So I'm very much looking forward to today's events and the discussions, and to the thematic meeting afterwards in the afternoon. And I invite all the participants to ask questions, to make comments, and to be active participants, because this is a very important topic, and I know that many of you have invested a lot of your organization's time and effort to address it as a topic. So I thank you for joining us today, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the conversation and to looking more close up to the platform. Thank you.
I guess it's over to me. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's really great to see so many faces that we know from our other affiliations, but it's really a true privilege to be part of this event. My name is Leanne McMillan. I'm the Director of Global at Stonewall. My pronouns are she, her. I'm not going to say a lot because there's not a lot to add to what Amari said, but I do want to say a few things. I think that it's been a long-standing affiliation that Stonewall has had with ERA, and I think that this project and the platform you're about to see is really a testament to the power of civil society coming together across borders to tackle a common problem. I really want to underline everything and enforce everything that Amari has just said about the nature of hate crime, its growth, how invasive it is, what it does to our community, what it does within the societies within which we are just trying to live our lives, and how hate crime is actually a signal to the rest of society that it's our community isn't worth the respect and dignity and human rights that we all obviously know we are worthy of as equal citizens in the countries around the world where we live. We know at Stonewall as well that this is an important issue for us in the UK, so I don't want to at all be perceived as, seeing this as just an issue in the countries that are part of the ERA network. We too have huge issues with hate crime. It's a very strategic priority for us to work on this issue, and for that reason, we were really welcoming when we had an opportunity to work with ERA to build out this reporting platform. The reason we were able to do this, and I think it's important to mention, is because of the very generous funding of the United Kingdom Foreign Commonwealth and I'm sorry, the FCDO, you just changed the name. I'm used to saying FCO, the FCDO. And I think it's a really important thing that they do for us, which is to help us build these kinds of projects together, and then to basically put them out there into the broader community, and to basically take them forward, and to essentially take the outputs of this platform to work within all of our communities to stop hate crime. So I think that it's important to recognize that this project, this platform would not have been created without all of the energy of the many people that are part of the ERA network, and the financial support that we've had from us well-meaning governments that are interested in tackling, some of the major issues for LGBTI communities. I think that the focus on a reporting platform, as difficult as it was to do all the technical work, I understand what that took. I work daily with my team in London with Clara and Ross, who you're very familiar with, and we know what it takes to bring together and to build that level of consensus around one reporting platform that is also taking account, as you said, Amari, of all of the work that's been done across communities, and in the ways and in the shape that people feel in their own countries that they need to resolve the issue of hate crime. I think it's testament to our ability to actually negotiate with each other and to identify what it is that we can do together to solve a common problem that you're going to see on this reporting platform. I'm really optimistic for its outputs. I know it will make a difference. I know that all of those people that will not only be signposted because they tell somebody about what's happened to them, and the response that they'll get from our colleagues, in countries across the ERA network, but also the longer term support that all of our communities will get because of what's done with the data that is gathered to hold governments to account, to make sure that those who are in the administration of justice understand what's happening to our community, and to actually address it and to be held accountable to address it. So I think it's a really important day. I think that we should all be really taking a good pat on the back, for I know there's been many, many long hours that have gone into developing this. I know that there's been hard negotiations about what it should look like and how it should operate and what its outputs would be. And I know that there's still more work to be done. So I would like to take this opportunity to call out to any of those in the room who have access to funding to continue to support the building out of this platform's results, because it won't have the impact that it needs to have unless we can do the advocacy work that comes with collecting this data. So I think that let's not dwell on that right now, but let's dwell on what's been done and to look at the bright future that there is for this work. And I really, absolutely, if we were together in the room, I would be applauding very loudly all of the efforts. I know how much work has gone into this, and to basically say that you always have our support, you have our solidarity, we have a common problem in resolving hate crime. So let's get on with it. And I can't wait to see the reaction of people in this room today when they see the platform. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, both of you, for these nice speeches. And I actually will continue on that with Stonewall, we have a very long year, very good cooperation. And I think in time, similar to the wine, it's only improving. And I hope that it will continue for many years. I think this process of creating this platform, at least through my eyes, it was very good, participatory based, inclusive based approach. Stonewall was following, both Stonewall and ERA basically were following the lead from our member organizations, from all of these 9 countries who are basically the experts, who are experts on how to support survivors, how to document cases. how to advocate in front of the governments in their states, etc., etc. So those were the leaders of this process, and in a way, Stonewall and ERA were the engines who provided the support for this to happen. And thank you, Leanne, for mentioning the fundings, because these fundings that we received actually was the basis for us to create this kind of platform. And why this platform is different from the others, we will get to it in this part. So in this part, both me and Clara will tell you a little bit about the process and a little bit about the functionality of this platform. And after that, we will have a very short Q&A session. So in case you have questions, you can ask them then, or you can write them in the chat here, or if you're listening on Facebook, you can also write them in the comments on Facebook. At ERA, we have two fabulous interns, Oscar and Megan. They are both here. So they are helping us with this work. So thank you, Oscar and Megan. And so feel free to ask questions on the go. So how everything started. Before we started this process, we saw the data and the need. And then we realized that only a very small portion is actually reporting the case of violence, the case of discrimination, and the other incident of case. In the recent survey that ERA conducted with the World Bank that was published in 2018, it's shown that only 17%, that is less than 1/5 of LGBTI people who have survived violence, hate crime because of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or because they are intersex, only 17% of them are reporting the violence to the authorities. And when it comes to discrimination, the percentage is even less, it's 8%. So when we read a little bit more about the reasons why people do not report, the reasons are mainly they don't believe that the institutions will help them. And they're afraid that their identity will be outed by the officers who work in the state institutions, and they are afraid that this will bring shame, embarrassment to themselves and to their families and the people in their surroundings. So knowing that this is the situation, we were thinking how to create a system, how to create a platform where people can document and their voice will matter. Again, even though maybe they will not report it to the police with their own name and surname, they can report it anonymously, and again their case will matter later on in changing the situation for them and for everybody else. And secondly, to create a platform where people can access the help that they need. Our member organizations are very visible in their communities, but again, even this service that I shared with you, they are mainly addressing the people who are young, who live in the urban centers, who are very well educated. So they have access to information, they have access to maybe contact details from our member organizations, etc. But we were trying to reach even people who don't know maybe this organization. So that's why in the platform, among other things, you will receive also information how to find support, where to find support, each organization, what kind of support gives you, etc. So this is what we had in mind when we started. Clara will share what we managed to do and our member organizations, of course. But that was the idea. And then for the process, as I said, for us, it was important that the member organizations are leading the process. So when we were creating the questionnaire for documenting the cases, we had, I don't know, dozens and dozens of meetings, group meetings, individual meetings with different countries, with different organizations. And again, many group meetings until we were all on the same page, that we are all in agreement that this is the questionnaire we want, that we are all happy with it. And for us, it was also important that the questionnaire can be also, even though very big, very complex, it can be also tailored based on the needs of the organizations. So that's with the platform, we were thinking that we need a platform who will allow breakdown of the data, and the data to be adjusted, for example, to the OSC methodology for those organizations who report there, or the data to be accessible for additional in-depth analysis. So that's why we introduced several questions that are not connected directly to the reporting, but also to the experience, to understand why people did not report, or if they report, what was their experience, etc., etc. And that data will help in this kind of analysis. As I said, the most important was that the whole process is led by the member organizations, only supported by ERA and supported by Stonewall. The other thing, the other issue that we had in mind was the safety and security of data. As many of the people who reported cases to the police, or the fears that people have for not reporting cases to the judiciary system, was being outed, and that their data can be somehow, their identity can be somehow revealed, and because of that they will suffer additional violence and discrimination. So that's why we were working very closely with the development company to create a software that will be completely safe and secure. So we were working with a company in creating, so the database is virtual, it's in the cloud, but we created separate virtual machines, and the data that we collect is stored in one virtual machine that is completely not visible for the internet space, and everything else, the website that you will see, you know, all the information on the website are on a completely separate virtual machine that is visible for the public. So to prove that this is working, we also organized 2 or 3 penetration testings to basically what we were trying to do is we were hacking the system to see if we can hack it and we can extract the data from it, and it's not hackable, so it's safe and secure. So if you report case to this platform, your data will be safe. So these are the parameters that we had in mind in creating this platform, and in my opinion, I think we managed to do at least most of it. What we did not manage to do is to create live statistics that will be presented directly on the website in a live mode. So for example, you enter one case, and that case it's immediately calculated and presented in the visual. Unfortunately, at this moment, we invested most of the money to create safe and secure platform. So we left these additional supportive things for the next phase, and we are hoping that in the next phase, we will get financial support and we will improve this system even more to make it more accessible even for those who are not partners in this process. In this moment, I would like to mention the partners, because I'm talking about them all the time, but I think it's important that you all hear their names, and of course you can see their names on the website, but I like to personally thank for their contribution and dedicated work on this platform to Alianța from Albania, to Tuzla Open Center from Bosnia and Herzegovina, to Transaid from Croatia, and also the consortium of organizations under the Split Pride, Queer Sport Split, and Queer Anarchy from Split, who will be working together. The CSGD from Kosovo. And in Montenegro, we have another consortium, Queer Montenegro Association, Spectra, and Juventus. From North Macedonia, we have 2 organizations, Coalition Margins and LGBTI Support Center, the Sezna from Serbia, Škuc Magnus and Lege Bitra from Slovenia, and Chaos GL from Turkey. Without your dedication, this platform wouldn't be live today. So thank you very much. And I hope that together we will only improve it. The data that we will gather, it will not stay only in the platform, but we will use it in several different ways. One way is that our member organizations will use it for country-based advocacy with the Ministries of Justice, Ministry of Interior, not just to improve the legislation, but also to improve the implementation of the legislation that we see that is lacking behind a lot. The second way how we will use the data is for regional advocacy. So ERA will combine the regional data, will produce reports, and we will advocate in front of the regional mechanisms and also international mechanisms, such as European Union, European Commission, Council of Europe, but also UN mechanisms and similar. And also we will use the data for analyzing, for understanding the trends. From case studies and from empirical data, we roughly know the trends, but this platform will actually allow us to have a data-led understanding and data-led advocacy later on the trends. For example, what groups among us are most at target. So when we understand that trends, it will be easier to talk with governments, it will be easier to talk with all the stakeholders on how to actually improve the situation for those who are most marginalized and for those who are most attack first. And so with this, I will finish, and I'm sorry for the long talk. And most a dozen things, but I hope Clara will, who comes after me, will fill the gaps that I left. Clara, the floor is yours now.
Thanks, Biljana. Hi, everyone. My name's Clara Vertem, and my pronouns are she and her, and I work at Stonewall as a global project manager. So I'm just going to start actually by sharing a video with you, which is something we created, which I hope speaks for itself about the experience of the project. So just bear with me while I share that with you.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. If your voice isn't heard, then you can feel like you're alone and that your problems are only your problems. We do know that there is a lack of trust towards the institutions as well from the LGBTI community, because they are afraid of being outed or being discriminated within the system. That is the biggest, I think, goal of this platform, is for them to actually have somewhere to go and report it and know that they are safe there and that their voices are heard.
We want to, on one hand, improve the security of data that we collect through monitoring process of hate-motivated incidents. On the other hand, we wanted to expand and diversify our knowledge about these incidents by creating a more comprehensive questionnaire for survivors and witnesses.
Because there is no platform, a specific friendly place for trans and intersex people to report incidents that happen to them. And with this population, it happens almost on an everyday basis.
The main reason to become part of this project is to connect to the network of organizations that are having an extensive knowledge and experience in the field. And of course, with a focus to learn, grow, and support our community members.
We do a lot of advocacy here in Croatia, and it's always important to have statistics, to have numbers, because when talking to institution, that's basically the only thing they want to know.
So in terms of experience so far, it's beyond our expectations. We really felt guided and supported, and overall it's really enchanting to witness a group of people that are process-oriented with huge impacts on our work and their work.
The overall experience was really positive. I think through this project, we had a lot of opportunity to bond a little bit more with some other organizations from our region. We are all heard, and our ideas, we are able to express them, and they're actually implemented, and it's a good feeling. Yeah.
It was a real privilege being involved in every stage of the process that will probably determine how monitoring of hate-motivated incidents will look like in the whole region in coming years.
It was completely amazing. I learned a lot of stuff. I met a lot of new people. Yeah, it was great.
We will now be able to systematically monitor hate speech against the LGBT community. Beside that, we will have a comparable regional data for all hate-motivated incidents.
There's finally going to be something user-friendly, something that's accessible to them to just say if something happened to them.
The biggest impact that this platform will have for the LGBTI community is they're strengthening their capacities to recognize what is discrimination, what is hate speech, and what is hate crime. And all of these platforms and spaces that they can actually register it and report it. I'm hoping that we can kind of make this bridge with the LGBTI community and the local institutions here, so that we can kind of rebuild their trust in one another, because we will be working on both sides.
We'll finally have a localized service, or better to say a platform, where they will be able to reach out, to witness their stories, report the cases, and finally to acquire support needed. This kind of service was really long wished, and finally it's happening, so we are really grateful.
So what I would like to say to the community out there is that you are really heard through this platform. We're going to hear you and we're going to try to help you. Even if you do this anonymously, we're going to have statistics we can work with in the future to improve the rights of trans and intersex people and to help others to not live through what you maybe lived through.
We are here for you. We are here to listen and to support, to provide a safe space in which your needs finally could be seen and supported. Therefore, if you are facing any form of violence and discrimination, just please reach out. Thanks.
People who will handle your case are hate crime professionals, and many of them are part of the LGBT community as well. We are working for civil society organizations that are independent of the state and which dedicated their work to improve access to justice for survivors of hate-motivated incidents.
So we will give you the safe space. We will give you the opportunity to tell us your story without any judgment.
We can guarantee you anonymity as well, survivor-centered approach in dealing with your case, and that means that we prioritize survivors' needs before anything else.
You just can be you and say what happened to you and you will be heard.
Is just to know that you're completely not alone. You have a system, you have people, you have this whole community who got your back, because we as a community need to stand together, hear each other out, and help each other out in any way possible that we can.
So thank you for watching our video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And it's really great that our partners had a chance to feed in. Thanks for the love coming through on the screen. I'd like to just take the opportunity now to tell you briefly a little bit more about the platform and the system itself. So I'm going to share a few slides. So the platform has kind of two different levels to it, and I'll be giving you a little glimpse of each of them very shortly in this section. But it functions on these two levels, on the level of the website and on the level of administrator panel. So the website, of course, is visible to everyone. And is the place where our public-facing reporting form for survivors and allies is, as well as information on reporting, and as Biljana's already mentioned, signposting links to various support services too. And it's where we'll be, as we go into the future and more evidence is created, we'll be sharing reports and statistics increasingly on there too. And the administrator panel is the section that's just for our civil society partners who will be managing and analysing reports and providing support. So this is accessed through a secure login, and by going in there, people can review new reports which have been submitted through the website, but our system works on the basis that people can only review the reports that are submitted for their own country. So somebody who is providing support within North Macedonia can't see any of the information for Albania, and neither can Stonewall or ERA see any of those personal details for any of the reports coming through. We just get a top line view. So in that way, people's data and experiences are protected. And also on the system, people are able to manually add reports or even bulk upload for a couple of partners who have their own reporting services and are wanting to make sure that that data gets shared on this platform as well. So it's a really comprehensive view. And they're able to track support provision as well to provide that kind of continuous view of supporting someone on their journey by setting reminders and adding notes and information to a case, as well as viewing statistics and trends too. So I also just wanted to really briefly share this flow. So we went through quite an extensive process of thinking through what we wanted the journey for each of the different types of users of this You Are Heard service to be. So for somebody wanting to make a report, as well as for one of our partner organisations going to manage the report. And we really thought through each step and what people would need at each step of that process. And this is just to demonstrate how we then kind of visualised that journey, and we were able to provide this to our software developers in order to help them understand the structure that we were looking for and be able to build it for us. So this side just has all of our lovely, beautiful partners' logos on, because this is to represent all the workshopping discussions that we went through along the way. So we really wanted to make all the key decisions for the project together. So we would get together and we really made it work as a large group with everyone offering their expertise. So for example, people brought along examples of existing reporting forms. Some of these were online ones, some of them were just the offline questions that they would ask somebody who would come into their office. And we really scrutinised all of these and agreed together the elements that we wanted to replicate from each of them. And as Biljana mentioned before, other considerations like people's reporting commitments to the OSCE were taken into account. So if there was a question where we could provide answer options that were very similar to the ones people wanted to use for other types of reporting, it just means that the data is already comparable and the statistics can be used for other commitments as well. And we also obviously discussed people's key barriers to reporting around trust and information that people aren't sure about. So we wanted to overcome them in the design of the website. And we had a consultation as well about the look and feel of the site. And I really just wanted to share this word cloud because this represents people's ideas about what was most important for people to feel when they came to our website to decide whether to make a report or not. So we got words in here like hope, understood, safe, queer, community, cozy. So this really helped us in our decision making when we were thinking about things that might not seem that important, but like the colour scheme of the site that just really gives people a feeling of calmness and warmth and support. And also it helped us make the decision that we wanted to use illustrations on the site. And we're really lucky to have fantastic artists. Seme provides some beautiful illustrations. So please do check out their work as well. And now I'm just going to give you, for those who haven't already been on the site, I wanted to give you a very quick look at it. So I'm going to share my screen with you here. So I would really encourage you to go have a look around in your own time, but just to see some of the key features, as soon as you come onto the homepage of You Are Heard, there are immediately two different places you could make a report if that's something that is top of your mind in that moment. So either up there on the right hand side, or there's a really big button here in the middle that takes you straight to our reporting page. So we've got a bit of information to make sure everybody really understands their rights and what's going to happen during the process of reporting. And then after proving that you're a human here, you're taken straight to the reporting form. So I'm not going to go through the whole form here, but just to give you a little idea, people have to answer just a few preliminary questions to enter the form, and then they're taken through the process of all the questions. So also another consideration we had was that people might have different levels of information they want to provide. Some people might want to make a really thorough report, whereas other people might want it to be a quicker process. So with that in mind, it's only really the main details of the incident that are mandatory to provide. The survivor and perpetrator sections can be skipped through, they're not mandatory. So somebody could just fill out about the incident and skip straight to the end to provide a couple of confirmations that they're happy to submit. And also decide whether they want to add any personal details in order to receive support from an organisation, or whether they want to leave it anonymous. It's completely up to them. So just another couple of features we have on the site. We've got an FAQ, frequently asked questions, where people can see a bit more information. We hope these will answer a few of the main questions people tend to have. As mentioned before, we've got a list of our fantastic partners for this project. We've got the section where we'll have statistics and evidence arriving. We've just got some kind of relevant reports in there at the moment. And this page is really important, where people can find support. So people just come down, click on their country, and they'll see a list of different types of organisation with a description there for different types of support that they might be looking at. So sometimes people aren't ready to make a full report, or they just want to scope out what might be involved, or they want a different type of support. So you can find all that on there. And of course, really importantly, the whole site's available in the key languages of the region as well, and can just be really easily switched up here at the top. So that's a whistle-stop tour of the site. And then I just wanted to show you as well, we've got a few screenshots of the administrator panel. We can't show that to you live for security reasons, because we don't want to reveal the URL. But this is the Serbian homepage, for example. So you can see there, this person has 15 incidents that have been logged through the website for them to review, and a couple of reminders there on the main screen. They can manually add a report onto there as well. And they can create comparable statistics by comparing different questions from the form and generating a chart or a graph, which can then be exported as well, which can then be used in their own reporting. So those are kind of the main features, a bit of a quick run through of the site, but I really hope that gives you an idea of how it works from the public side and from the side of all our partners as well. So I'm going to pass to Biljana, and I think we're going to be taking a few questions.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you for this thorough description of the platform and the gadgets. So if you have a question, you can write it in the chat, or you can also raise your hand if you want to ask your questions directly. Until you decide on what to ask, I will just add one thing, that the platform can be used as you've seen it, and you can report in any language in any country. Because of the way how it is created, the people will receive it, the report in their own language. So even, for example, if you're Albanian in Serbia, you can report in Albanian language, you can choose, or if you are Slovenian in Serbia, you can report in Slovenian language, etc., etc. The other thing is that several of our member organizations, of partner organizations in the project, will be linking this regional platform on their own website. So you can access the same platform both through yourheard.org, but also through their own websites. So when you enter in their websites, you will have a place for reporting, and when you click the reporting, the window, the question here is the same. The data goes in the same pool. It will be analyzed by the same people. The important thing is, Clara mentioned this, but I just want to repeat it, that when the incident happened in one country, when you report the case, only the organization from that country sees that information, nobody else. And what we receive in ERA, it's only one portion of the data. So we do not receive any information that can reveal the identity of the survivor or the victim. We only receive aggregated data from the whole region without knowing the identity of the survivors, but we need that data only for the later analysis and preparation of regional reports and regional and international advocacy. So, are there any questions so far? I don't know, Oscar, Megan, I don't know who is monitoring the platforms. Do we have any questions anywhere?
There is one question in the chat.
Yes.
Whether we have plans to allow direct reporting to the police via the website.
Yes, thanks, Amari. I just saw that question. So as the system is set at the moment, when you are reporting the case, there is a question if you want a support in reporting this case. If you click that you want support, then the trained people from our member organizations will support you in that endeavor. So they will support you in reporting the case to the police. But that is only for those people who want that kind of support and who want to report the case to the police. For everybody else who does not wish to report the case to the judicial system anywhere, neither police nor prosecution, the cases will not be reported anywhere else. Also, the reporting can be completely anonymous. So you can come anonymously report the case without enclosing any of your identity characteristics. There are several questions that are mandatory, and those questions are mainly related to the incident, what happened. So for us to understand what was the incident, what was the bias, is the SOGS characteristic the bias, the reason for the incident, etc. All other questions, as Clara also mentioned, are optional, and you can go as thorough as you want or as little as you want. However, none of that will be reported to the police or any other institution as an individual case unless the person who is reporting wants that. And if they want, it will not be done without their presence. So it will be with them in cooperation with the member organizations, and they will set the dynamics and the way how the case will be reported to the police. I hope this answered the question.
I think it's, I completely agree with everything Biljana said. I think it's worth saying as well that obviously there are mechanisms that do exist globally, including here in the UK, where people can report direct to the police through a website specifically about hate incidents. But that's not just a case of kind of having that mechanism available. That's also a case of the police themselves having the services and the right policies in place and the resources to actually support receiving and managing those cases, notwithstanding, you know, the attitudinal work that needs to go on to make sure that the reports are received in the right way and that people are able to access their rights at all times and are properly supported through the process. So yeah, I think I agree with Biljana, it's not something we're looking for at the moment, but people can obviously access this through working with one of the partners.
Thank you, Clara. I think I don't see any other questions, but I want to let you know that both Clara and myself will stay throughout the whole panel. So even if you remembered later on with some question, you can also ask it after the panel in the Q&A session of the panel. I hope that's okay, Amari. And if that is, I'm turning over to you.
Thank you very much, Biljana and Clara, for this presentation, and also for the very beautiful video. I think it's really fantastic, very comforting, very warm, and very I think it's gonna have a very positive impact. And one first idea that is crossing my mind right now is that we should first for sure subtitle it in all the languages of our region, and then use our you know, the ERA channels, Stonewall, and also the local I mean the members channels to promote the platform. So we are now officially, and we are very good with time, entering into the second part of this event, which is a panel, which is going to give us the opportunity to have a broader conversation on the issue of access to justice for LGBTIQ plus people in the Western Balkans and Turkey region. We spoke on this very first part, the launching of the platform, about the issue of underreporting, about the importance of reporting, and about this technical solution that we created at this point in time, which is, of course, we all agree, a very important first step. But we also have a lot more other issues. And to discuss on this, we have not one, but four amazing community leaders and representatives from our region who are going to speak with us today and share with you important knowledge, experience, and also approaches and solutions to how they have dealt with some of the issues that are very prevailing when it comes to access to justice, such as underreporting, a lack of institutional responsiveness, lack of political will, inefficient addressing of reported hate crimes incidents, inefficient analysis and collection of data, and the further victimization, unfortunately, on many cases that LGBTIQ plus people, endure in all over the region. So I'm actually very, very honored and happy to have with me in this panel, as I said, four community leaders, including here Miloš Kovačević from the organization Das Is Na in Serbia, Vladimir Sjekljoca from the Crisis Response and Policy Center in Serbia as well, Asmira Topal from Trans Aid in Croatia, and Damla Umut Uzun from Chaos GL in Turkey. So I want to start the conversation with Miloš Kovačević from organization Das Is Na. For those who don't know, Das Is Na is one of the organizations with the most, let's say, experience in the issue of addressing hate crimes and hate incidents in the region, and one of the partners of the You Are Heard platform, because their organization was founded on addressing the issues of hate crime and hate incidents, and consequentially the topic of access to justice. So they have a lot of experience to share with us, and I want to ask Miloš if he can contribute for about 5 to 7 minutes with giving us an overview of the situation in his country, in Serbia. What are some of the most pressing challenges and issues? What findings do you have, and what are of main concern for you at the moment in Serbia? So Miloš, the floor is yours. And for all our panelists, if you have to make PowerPoint presentations, just let me know so I can make you co-host, and then you can share your screens. Miloš, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mari. Thank you. As you said, queer survivors of hate crimes are among the groups that struggle the most to access justice. And this is particularly due to the fact that majority of them do not report such crimes. However, little effective action has been taken in order to encourage survivors to report to the competent authorities. Thus, this is not analyzed the reasons that prevents survivors in Serbia from reporting them in the last 4 years. So we identified 90 unreported hate crimes documented in this period. The reason that appears the most in 30% of them is that survivors' lack of trust in institutions. Hereafter, survivors not being familiar with procedures is stated as a reason for not reporting in 24% of the cases, and survivors' fear of perpetrator is noted as a reason for not reporting in 21 cases. That means 23% of the cases. Furthermore, we have like a reason that survivor is not being out. That is in 22% cases of unreported incident, and other reasons for not reporting the incidents, that is around 13%, and they range from worry for other family members to cases in which the survivors achieved the reparation outside the criminal justice system. And we were especially interested in cases where survivors stated lack of trust in institutions as a reason for not reporting, not just because it is the most common one, but also because straightforward responsibility of the state for these cases in the sense that they are not being reported exactly because people don't trust in institutions. Thus, we compared them with data that we have with the and that we generated for all unreported cases in order to see whether there are some differences. So when we compare the total number of unreported cases with number of those that were not reported due to lack of trust in institutions, we see the distribution somewhat changed regarding the location of the incidents. More than half of the unreported incidents that occurred in the cities other than Belgrade were not reported due to lack of trust in institutions. Furthermore, this reason accounts for nearly a third of unreported incidents that occurred in smaller places, whereas it's noted as a reason for not reporting around a quarter of the incidents that occurred in Belgrade. Interpreted together, these figures point out to the fact that unreported cases that occur in cities other than Belgrade, as well as cases occurring in smaller places in Serbia, are more likely to be unreported due to lack of trust in institutions than because of other reasons. Furthermore, taking into account the division of all unreported cases by the type of crime, it can be seen that the lack of trust in institutions features more prominently as a reason for not reporting in the cases of physical violence than other types of injuries. In regard to gender identity of the survivors who stated trust in institutions as a reason for not reporting, the majority, 61% of the reported incidents were recorded against cisgender survivors. Against transgender survivors, 38% of cases were recorded. Men were survivors in 61% of the cases, women in 33% of the cases. Comparing with cisgender women, twice as many transgender women stated lack of trust in institutions as a reason for not reporting. This is understandable considering the failure of criminal justice system not just to find and sentence perpetrators of hate crimes motivated by transphobia, but also to prevent secondary victimization of trans women. We can conclude the measures for lowering underreporting are needed and that they should center parts of the queer community that are most reluctant to report incidents due to distrust in institutions. Thus, in Serbian context, special focus should be put on survivors of physical violence, trans women, and survivors who are living outside Belgrade. So with this, I would close my this first part of my.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Milos, for this presentation. It's very confronting, I feel, and very hard to listen to this data. But at the same time, it's so important that we become aware. And again, it's a reminder that it's always an issue of inequality. Also, when we speak about the LGBTIQ spectrum, that not all people are affected differently by discrimination, hate crimes, and violence, and not all are enabled, empowered, and confident in the same way because of the very harsh reality around them. And yes, you basically have quantified and have provided us with hard to ignore facts that people outside of, as Biljana said also in the first part of our meeting, you know, people who are in rural areas, in smaller communities, trans individuals, and people who are gender non-conforming and who don't fall into this, you know, oppressive binary, then they are the ones who not only suffer the most, but they believe and trust less. And my follow-up question for the later part is exactly to ask your expert opinion on how do we get to build that trust with the community, and how have you done that with individuals that you managed to reach out and get to support, and how do we get institutions to be reliable? Because yes, as you said, the issue of secondary victimization is as problematic as the hate incidents itself. It's second trauma, and it's you know, it can make matters even worse if it's not addressed properly. So those are my two follow-up questions for you for the second part. And of course, if anyone else has questions for Miloš's amazing presentation and data, please just ask your questions in the chat room or do them later. And now I'll go to another colleague from Serbia again, an organization who Crisis Response Policy Center, who works with even harder to reach communities, and communities that come with a lot more challenges and difficulties. These are migrants and refugees, and some of them are also LGBTI migrants and LGBTI refugees. So what is the reality of access to justice for these communities in a country like Serbia, which for the most part is a transition country for Western countries for many people, but it's sometimes also a destination, whether by chance or for other reasons. So Vladimir, the floor is yours now to give us a bit more of a concrete summary of the situation with the communities that you work with.
Thank you so much, Amari, and thank you, ERA team, for organizing this conference and this panel. I know it must have been a logistics hell, so I'm quite happy to participate today and also to be a member of the ERA family, even though, as you mentioned, CRPC's focus is mostly on refugees, asylum seekers, and other persons who are in Serbia or transiting Serbia. As you all know, and many of the people who perceive Western Europe as their final destination travel by using the Eastern Mediterranean route that passes through Turkey and practically all the Balkan countries, and, you know, goes to the West. In this sense, CRPC sees and hears horrible stories, not only happening in Serbia, especially to LGBTI people in mixed migrations, but all the region that ERA practically covers. What we note in Serbia is that many of our beneficiaries are at risk of multiple discrimination. One, based on their LGBTIQ plus spectrum belonging, and the other one that can be more obvious at times, and that's it, you know, the race, the nationality, and even the language. Unfortunately, the situation in Serbia is changing not for the better part when it comes to hate crimes in general and acts of xenophobia. As we are all witnessing, non-formal groups are gathering in the cities. It was only in Belgrade at the beginning. Now they're expanding their work, so to say, all around Serbia, and stopping, threatening, and practically interviewing and collecting data from migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. Those are the groups that are usually associated with hate crimes towards migrants and LGBTI people, and any kind of or any other specific, so to say. Today it's going to be LGBTIQ, then it's, you know, they constantly shift. Many cases of hate crimes in Serbia when it comes to LGBTIQ people in mixed migrations and incidents are underreported. And this is predominantly because many of them do not perceive Serbia as a destination country, and hence don't want to tackle with the complicated legal system they will have to. This is one reason. The second reason is that they are also afraid, because many of them are inside collective centers, and they are also scared of being outed in front of their own community. So this platform that ERA partners have created, that is both user-friendly, it looks to me, and data safe, can be one of the tools that will be recommended, actually, that will be recommended to our beneficiaries and to utilize when they want to report hate crimes and hate incidents. So this is in a short what I wanted to say, but if you have any questions, I would like to say that just to add, when I spoke about collective centers, unlike in Western Europe, so to say, as the destination is there, Serbian collective centers are usually a safe place, they are, but many of them are located outside of Belgrade. So when a person is unfortunately mostly outed by the migrant refugee community, they don't have a good access to already established LGBTIQ services in Serbia. So our organization skips in and tries to connect them with as many resources possible, and this is what we usually do. We liaison them with LGBTIQ specialized service providers, but to our all bad luck, unfortunately, collective centers are in those areas where we don't have many developed services.
Thank you very much, Vladimir. Again, this is also very, very confronting, and I think that we need to. I'm very glad that you are in this panel today, because I think that it's very important that throughout the region and within the LGBTIQ movement, there is more awareness, there is more engagement, more action, and I'm very glad that you know, we know you for a long time now, and I'm very glad that in Serbia there exists such an opportunity that an organization like yours liaisons with organizations like Da se zna and Geten and many other community organizations, Izađi, Novi Sad, and so on and so forth, that, you know, makes things happen. But my follow-up question for you later is where are the challenges with the state institutions, from the centers, from the ministries, the relevant directors, and so on, that you've engaged with, and maybe you can tell us of some examples of things that maybe worked, things that should be encouraged and push forward, and yes, I would like for you to share that, maybe that idea a little bit later. after we hear the context from the other panelists. Thank you very much. So now I want to give the floor to another community leader who will give us also a lot more information on yet another segment of our community. As I mentioned earlier, it's Asmira. They are from Croatia, from TransAid, a trans-specific organization. And I want to ask Asmira the same, Seka as we call them, the same question that we asked to the first two colleagues about the context in your city, in your country. Seka, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here, and also to be part of this project. And now that I see it presented, it really looks amazing and beautiful. I'm really happy with it. Thank you to all of you who participated in this. So we in TransAid didn't have a mechanism and continuous data collecting on hate crimes so far. So this platform will be extremely useful for us. But we did have luck to have a really good cooperation with a lawyer who is extremely friendly and works at low fees for us, which is also helpful. And so we kind of do offer some sort of legal support to our community members. So I would like to maybe talk more about some cases that we currently have in court, just to give you a context, like how does it work when you are there in court, and what are what's going on around it, and not what's in the reports and the media. For example, when a few years back, when there was ratification of Istanbul Convention and the whole, how to say, a drama around it, there was, at that time, there was a rise in right-wing NGOs became really loud, and they made this coalition called Citizens Stop the Ratification of the Convention. And through this campaign they had, they really insulted and showed trans community in a really bad light. And since they're really visible and their voices are really heard in Croatia, this really affected on how people, in regular situations, in everyday life, in a store, in a bank, how they actually react to trans people. And this really was damaging, and people started having more issues at work, even in the healthcare systems, etc. So we decided to sue this organization with the help of our lawyer. And first what happened is that we were given a judge who was supposed to retire in I don't know, 2 or 3 months after we started. And then after he retired, it lasted a couple of months. It took them to appoint our case to somebody else. And then we lost this case at the first instance court. And when we received the judge's rule, it was really obvious that she didn't understand. In my opinion, she didn't even understand what discrimination exactly is, let alone what are the issues of our community and how harmful this was for our community. It was really obvious she just didn't understand anything around it, and she just thought that we made a lot of noise around nothing. So yeah, we did file a complaint, and now we're waiting again to see what's going to happen. Let me just check my facts here a little bit. I wrote it down just not to forget something. Yeah, we right now we filed a complaint to a constitutional court because everything was delayed and the other courts did not hear us. We decided to go on the constitutional court, and now we're waiting on their reply to our complaint to see what happens. So yeah, this is one of the cases we are fighting with since 2018. So it's really a long process. To give a little bit more positive example, we also filed to the administrative court, we filed a complaint against National Health Council. They are responsible for giving the final opinion to people on LGR. So this is ridiculous because they're National Health Council. They're supposed to deal with things such as the pandemic we're in now. And trans people are the only people whose, life depends on their decision, like individually. It's the only individual cases they work on. Everything else is national crisis, etc. That's what they're supposed to do. So it's a bit of a ridiculous situation, but yeah. And they have a legal obligation to issue their opinion within 30 days after receiving a request. But this never happens on time. Some people wait even for 2 years and longer. So some people, we were lucky that some people wanted to file a complaint against them. And as soon as we filed the complaint, people got the opinion and the process was stopped and, everything was fine. Here we're working, we're good, don't attack us. It was basically their response like, okay, we're here, we're fine. So yeah, that was one positive, thing. I don't know how much time I have. We have really a lot of these cases I can talk about, but maybe to sum it up, just to say that what happens is that the cases of LGBTI people in Croatia are intentionally given to judges who are publicly known for being transphobic, homophobic, etc. And for example, one judge was removed from an LGBTI case because it was found out that they participated at Pride a couple of years back, and like they're not objective enough because of this. And there's this ridiculous situation where it's obvious they're trying to sabotage us, that they're not really there to protect us. So yeah, to sum it up, this is it.
Thank you very much, Seka. I think your presentation gave us this very, I think, realistic, real picture of what actually happens with the justice system and how both community and organizations are affected and how they have to deal with it. And I think I got a few important messages from what you said. First of all, perpetrators are not only individuals against other individuals. Perpetrators are also NGOs, state institutions, clergy, who have a big part of the responsibility or the pie of the issue, and that can make matters even more complicated because you have to be organized threefold more to deal with such issues, and that is time consuming, resource consuming for organizations and for communities and activists. And it can, it does have also strong personal toll when you have to work for years. And how many NGOs can count on individuals and legal experts being there for years in a row when we are vulnerable, we don't have resources that are guaranteed to us all the time. And then you shared a very important part of the problem, which is the justice system, the courts. And I actually am I mean, we discussed this together before, but I think I'm not the only one who is pretty insulted to hear that there are, you know, judges who are supposed to uphold the constitution of a country to be so blatantly biased and so blatantly one-sided on their position. So I think this is an alarm bell, and not that we haven't known before, but I think it shows the gravity of the situation. And my follow-up question for you, Seika, later is, you know, how do you feel overall about this issue, also being in an EU member state, you know, who for us who are outside of the EU, for example, the EU is something we aspire to join. And so my question is, how is the European Union playing a role in this? How is it for you as local organizations? Do you have funding? Do you have resources from the local and national level? And can you count on any other forms of support to deal with these issues? So that is for a little bit later. And now, for the next 5 to 7 minutes, I'll give the floor to yet another community leader and amazing organization in Turkey. They're Kausciel, and Damla is going to speak on their behalf. As we all know, the context in Turkey is very in many ways is very challenging. There are many things happening all the time. There is a huge social, political, cultural shift going on in Turkey, and this is affecting very severely the LGBTI community. They are at the forefront of everything that is happening in Turkey, and who better can explain that to us than our colleagues from there, our dear friends from there. So Damla, the floor is yours to tell us a little bit more about the context of access to justice in Turkey.
Thank you, Amari, for giving me the floor and your great presentation of our organization. Yeah, I will not talk about so many different things than my colleagues told about here. In Turkey, yes, we are also in a really alarming situation regarding the access to justice of LGBTI+ people. First of all, we have lack of legislation here in Turkey. Unfortunately, there is no comprehensive hate crime or anti-discrimination laws covering sexual orientation, gender identity, or sex characteristics as a discrimination ground or hate ground. And Turkish authorities, not surprisingly, has no attempt to issue any kind of progressive laws to protect LGBTI+ people's lives. Instead, they are withdrawing the existing conventions or any kind of protecting laws they try to change at the moment. As you may know, we've left Istanbul Convention last summer. And for example, we have also Turkish Human Rights and Equality Association, TİHEK, which is supposed to protect LGBTIs from violence and discrimination, but they are the ones who also expose discrimination and violence against the community. They don't take any kind of application from LGBTIs, for example. This is one reason that we have underreporting and we have problems with hate crimes or access to justice in general. Secondly, we can still, our law enforcement can still use some gaps in the laws because these hate crimes are serious crimes and they can be penalized with some laws in Turkey. But there's a impunity culture also. It's a culture for our judges or law enforcement in Turkey. There's, for example, when a perpetrator committed a crime, judges mostly, how can I say? They have a preference to be in the side of the perpetrator. They give good time reductions, or they give unjust provocation reductions, for example, with their sentences. So this impunity also prevents survivors or victims of hate crimes to report the cases in general. As you can see, we are legislatively all our own in Turkey. Besides, we have also a huge problem with hate speech. As you may guess, in such populist and authoritarian countries like Turkey, where there's no democracy culture or rule of law or I don't know, equality principle at all, hate speech can be used as a powerful tool to oppress or discriminate the disadvantaged communities more and more. For many years, our government uses hate speech towards LGBTI, even our president or our ministers, MPs, they are directly attacking LGBTI plus people with the severe hate speeches, and they are considered as freedom of expression by the courts. So this encouraged perpetrators to commit more and more hate crimes, or we as LGBTI plus activists or associations, we are targeted on social media, we are exposed to really hate campaigns on social media, which is also really, we are kind of victims of hate crimes, I can say, in this case. So these all are the reasons of underreporting, actually. For example, CAUSGL, my organization, systematically report hate crimes, homophobia and transphobia-based hate crimes since 2013. And our latest report is in 2019. Because of COVID, we have some issues with the reporting, but our new reports will come. In 2019 report, we reported 150 cases in total, hate crime cases, and 56 of them were really serious crimes, like physical attacks or sexual attacks, attempting murder, blah blah, which should be penalized by also penal code, regardless of it is an LGBTI case or what. But only 26 of them were reported to the police, and only 8 of them could be brought to courts, which is really poor number, unfortunately. And only 4 out of all these 150 cases, only 4 cases was reported by police as hate crime, and the perpetrator could get some, I don't know, punishment or fine. We don't know exactly the results. So this is like, not believing that application will work is the first reason that LGBTI plus people cannot report or do not want to report any kind of hate crime case when they are exposed to violence. This lack of legislation, also this impunity, also law enforcement's attitudes, also another reasons. Secondly, to be revealed by police or media to their families or friends, it's another reason, like lack of trust to the, I don't know, authorities, it is. And thirdly, they also don't want to be discriminated or exposed to multiple violence by police officers, because, as I said, we don't have a systematic protection or prosecution mechanisms in Turkey, and our police officers are not aware of the situation. They don't have enough capability, they don't have enough knowledge to respond to such cases. So they harass these cases. For example, according to report again, half of these 26 cases reported to police in 2019, the police acted unconcerned, or they humiliated the victims, the survivors. So this shows that police see the criminals as excusable, but victims as they deserve this situation. So this is the general situation, and as you know, as you can see, in central government level, there is no way to, I don't know, advocate for us at the moment. So as LGBTI plus community and associations, we are trying to build ways to support the victims or survivors. Also, we are trying to strengthen our own community, because we are the ones who are exposed to secondary trauma, and we are dealing with these situations at all. So yes, this is, I guess I will talk about these ways in the second part. So for now, yes.
Thank you so much, Damla, for this very, very holistic explanation of the situation. And yes, indeed, later on we will speak also about the ways you have you have identified to address this issue from the positionality that you are in now, lack of state support, open antagonism, and open oppression. And this is also something that I find personally very confronting again about Turkey, because in my opinion, Turkey, for example, has one of the most elaborate and one of the most fantastic feminist communities and movements and queer movements in all of Europe, if not the whole world. And here we are in the same society, in the same country, confronted with the exact polar opposite, with extreme, increased conservatism that is openly attacking these other communities. So we are unfortunately in this scenario of Huntington's clash of values and clash of civilizations, and that is my follow-up question for you for the second part: how you have managed to remain resilient, and how have you managed to provide safety and solutions and help to the community, and what others have done that you know of that hasn't necessarily been done by Chaos Shell, but that has been done by others. Thank you again for your contribution so far. Now, before I give the floor back to our community leaders and we hear from them about the specific questions that I asked earlier, we have another panelist, and this will also help us to discuss a little bit about the other part of the conversation. What does the international community, what role does the international community play in this issue? What role can it play? And I know that for this particular topic, we could have another panel. We could have so many speakers come from so many backgrounds and from so many areas, but we have one of these representatives who is also a very good friend of ERA, a very good friend of the LGBTI community in our region, an ally, Olga Martin Gonzalez. She's from the DG NEAR at the European Commission. So as unfortunately she cannot be with us for much longer in the panel, but Olga will be able to see the video recording for the rest of the conversation, also including the recommendations and demands of our of the community. My question for Olga is, first of all, welcome to the panel, and thank you for joining us. And my question is, what is the role of the European Commission in this? How do you see a role, and what can be done? Also, following what you heard so far from our panelists.
Thank you very much. It is really a pleasure to be here today with you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. So it is really a pleasure to be here today with you in order to discuss, about the prevention and the promotion of the human rights of the LGBTIQ people. Which is the role of the EU? I think that the role is key, because equality and not discrimination are really core values and fundamental rights in the European Union. And the European Commission, is really committed, in fighting discrimination in all its forms by the provision of policy guidance, but as well promoting legislation, policy changes, and also supporting programs that really promotes and protect human rights. The aim of the cooperation activities, the policies, the monitoring tools, is to ensure that the countries are really making progress. And they are responding, to the discrimination, the hate crime, and hate speech. So we have, regarding all the legislative framework, for example, beyond all the established equality directives, the Commission, presented last year a number of forward-looking policies that also contribute to eliminate the discrimination, such as the EU strategy on victim rights, and also, for example, last year it was also presented, this year, for LGBTIQ, and this is the first ever strategy in this regard. So moreover, we have also the adoption of the gender equality strategy for the European Union, that it was adopted last year, and the European Union Gender Action Plan 3 for the external actions. In both strategies, policies, also they have significant objectives and actions to make progress by 2025. Having intersectionalities is one of the horizontal principles for the implementation of these strategies. So this is also key, and when we are talking, for example, in the enlargement region, to follow, the EU Gender Action Plan. So regarding the strategy on LGBTIQ, it concerns, really that the EU policy making, It's setting up a number of targets and actions, including legal actions, but also funding measures. And the strategy touches upon data collection, for example, the extension of the list of EU crimes to cover homophobic, hate speech, and hate crime in order to bring, forward the legislation on the mutual recognition of parenthood in cross-border situations, among others. And in this regard, there was an open consultation, during the summer for the preparation of the insertion impact assessment on the mutual recognition of parenthood, for example. Regarding concretely what we are doing, the Commission, in this case, DNR, in order to promote and protect, the rights of LGBTIQ, we will work at different levels, not political and policy level. We raise, these issues in regular basis with the enlargement region when we have the forums under the stabilization and association agreements. So, and also in ad hoc basis, with the governments in response to specific incidents that affect specifically to LGBTIQ. Another level of work is regarding the monitoring of the situation on the ground. So in this regard, we closely monitor the situation of LGBTIQ people in each enlargement country and under the framework of the enlargement package countries report. In this regard, the input and involvement of civil society organizations, is really crucial in order to have, the final product. The report that was presented, yesterday at the EU Parliament in Strasbourg, and you had time to see it. There, you can see the main shortcomings, the challenges that they are in each country, and some progress has been done. It will be as well reflected, no? Because access really to justice is a prerequisite for candidate and potential candidate countries that wish to join the EU, and they are expected to comply with the EU equality acquis, but also to have the institutional framework needed to enforce it, and also the adequate resources. No, it's not only about the legal framework, no. So the countries really need to ensure to have adequate measures to address discrimination on the grounds, including on the basis on sexual orientation and gender identity, as a necessary step towards membership. So, so here, as I mentioned, when we draft the report, with the input of civil society organizations, among others, Council of Europe, international organizations, we really look at the progress, that regarding, the legislation, the policies that they are in place, the cases of hate speech, past discrimination, etc. Another level of where we are working, it's providing financial support. So we address directly the issue of discrimination, hate speech, the promotion of the inclusion initiatives through several programs. So we have, this support, it has been channeled under the former instrument that we just called the European Instrument for Democracy and Human Rights. And now it is foreseen under the new thematic program on human rights and democracy under NDICI. But we will continue, to work, in the same area under the new instrument. So we also support, broader anti-discrimination agenda through the EPA instrument as well, supporting the adoption of laws, policies that they are aligned, with the European standards. For example, now currently we have, the regional program, the Chinese now, as you will know, at bilateral level, we have several programs. For example, we are working with the Council of Europe through a program that is called Horizontal Facility. There are actions there, and they are working in some countries, like in Serbia, for example, in Montenegro, in Albania. So we have several programs that they are working also in these levels, at legislative level. They are working at capacity building level. They are working at raising awareness, also about the promotion and protection. And I think that we have some concrete results for in the programs that they are really trying to progress, I mean, in this area. So I think that this is very important. I mean, the funding, no, I mean, the implementation of programs, specific programs. And just to conclude, I mean, I would like to highlight, yes, that despite the progress that has been done in the Western Balkans and Turkey, although the situation may vary among countries, I mean, data still shows that the situation of LGBTIQ people remains among the most marginalized. So it is clear that we need a more comprehensive and robust responses by states, to the human rights violations. And we need also, I mean, more funding and the implementation of legislation, the action plans that they are already in place, but maybe they are not implemented because they don't have the adequate resources, not in order to be implemented. So I think that, yes, I think that we need to continue, I mean, in this area. I will stop here and happy to take any questions that you have in.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Olga, for this very thorough presentation of what the Commission and also what the department, the directorate that you are working in is doing. I think there are a lot of follow-up questions that we could do, but due to the time and due to the fact that there are many other panelists and many other issues we want to discuss, I do have a couple follow-up questions, and maybe I can do them all together, and then you can speak to us and tell us a little bit more concretely, what do you think about those? I think that one major concern that we are right now learning and hearing from across the Western Balkan and Turkey region is the issue of funding. We have indication that the support for LGBTI topic in particular overall by the EU is diminishing instead of increasing. So what is your opinion on that? And can you tell us a little bit more about that? And also the issue of access to funding by the local organizations at the local level. There is always a concern that the European Union's proposals and calls are very complex, and therefore they're very usually hard to access by many organizations, and they encounter big challenges even when they enter in like consortiums of many organizations and they unite so many capacities together, they still sometimes fail. And I have in mind here the recent case in Serbia of a couple of years ago when the whole movement came together after many years of bickering and finding the common language and agreeing on they were not successful. And then also and I think I speak for many others, we have a very big concern in the region with the EU integration as such, that it's slowing down. We see that there is not as much willingness from some countries of the EU. There is a fatigue, there is skepticism, and this is affecting the way our governments are actually proceeding with these reforms and how they are addressing also, for example, the LGBTI issue. They are in many countries even ignoring it, like actively ignoring it or doing the bare minimum. So how do you see these very two big issues and from your perspective? And I know you have very little time, but I still want to hear your thoughts, and then we can also give you our recommendations a bit later.
Thank you. Yeah, as I mentioned, I mean, intersectionalities now, it is really an horizontal principle under the gender equality strategy of the EU, but also under the Gender Action Plan 3 for the external actions. So that implies as well, I mean, so you have on one side, I mean, the countries need to comply with all the gender equality, legislation, but at the same time, we have this Gender Action Plan 3 that also applies to enlargement region, and intersectionality is really a key principle there. So, for example, now the Commission approved in this summer a toolkit on how to mainstream human rights-based approach and gender mainstreaming into all the actions. So in order, I mean, doing that, obviously, I mean, the funding needs to increase, because we really, I mean, you cannot do it only at legislation level, then you need to operationalize, no? So by doing that, making sure that our programs, they are more comprehensive and take into account intersectionalities, we should raise, the funding for LGBTIQ if we really want to tackle, this issue, no? Among other intersectionalities regarding, race, religion, other minorities, etc. So, and regarding, the importance you mentioned that the Western Balkans and Turkey, that the issue is not, it's not a priority. As I mentioned, for the Commission, it is, in the reports, you can really see that at least the main, because you see that the report is really condensed, all the chapters needs to be discussed, but at least in the main chapters, the issues of discrimination, they are raised there. Just to making sure that also for the countries that this is really part of the process of the membership to the EU, and they need to comply, and they need to not only have, the legislative framework, but also, they need to implement, their plans that they have. So they need to really have the adequate resources for that.
Thank you very much, Olga. I know that you need to leave, but as I said, we will share with you the video so you can hear also from our recommendations. But what I wanted to very briefly conclude with is that I think that we do, as a movement, as a community, we do expect, we have very high expectations and high hope on the EU as a multilateral organization. And in this specific issue of access to justice, we think that some important demands are resources, funding to be adequately looked at when it comes to access to justice. And also when it comes to, I know that the EU is paying particular attention to justice reform across several countries of the Western Balkans. And I think that huge emphasis should be put, since you also mentioned this intersectionality, on human rights education of judges and prosecutors, because I think that that's where a lot of them are behind, and that as we heard also from our colleague from Croatia, there are very big problems with the justice sector. And as integration goes on, I think that we should definitely put some more emphasis on that. So I thank you again, and we hope to see you in future ERA and LGBT activities in the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So I will go back to our other panelists, and as we heard a lot of very complex situation in each country, and also the respective communities that our members work with. So my follow-up question to Milos was exactly like, based on the research that you have conducted, but also the experience you have with the community in Serbia, what approaches have you put in place to build trust? And then my question is both for Milos and for Vladimir, like, how have you engaged to build trust with the community, I mean? And then the follow-up question is for both of you, how have you engaged with the state institutions, and how have you managed to build bridges where there weren't any, and how are you keeping those bridges? How are they still not burned and functioning, if at all? It's complex, but you know, I really would like to hear your best practice on this.
So reduced access to justice could be addressed in various ways. The most effective way, I think, is the same, in the same time is the most straightforward and obvious one. So like having a professional, sensitive and respectful treatment of survivors, as well as zero tolerance for secondary victimization. So in this sense, changing the legal framework that made the maltreatment of survivors possible in the first place is crucial. And Victim Rights Directive is mentioned in previous presentations. So in this sense, changing the legal framework that made maltreatment of survivors could go in that way that survivors could be accompanied by person of trust while reporting hate crimes, that would be certainly very beneficial, will have a beneficial effect on reducing survivors' reluctance to report incidents due to factor of lack of trust in institutions that I discussed in previous presentation. So because bare presence of a possible witness in the room, and especially when the person of trust is a human rights defender, would prevent police officers from exposing the survivor to secondary victimization. But hate crime survivors are especially vulnerable class of survivors, so some additional proactive measures are needed, such as campaigns which will encourage reporting, training for prosecutors and police officers and judges, what you, Marie, said, and the case from Croatia showed also. And our experience with judges is very similar, I would say. And also improvement of representation and visibility of queer people among criminal justice professionals, as well as a relentless use of already existing mechanisms for assessing justice by LGBT civil society organizations. And I would like to share one positive example of the last one. So 2 years ago, the rule book on conditions and criteria of selection, testing, and evaluation of reproductive cells donors of the Ministry of Health came into force, which stated that reproductive cell donors cannot be persons with anamnesis of homosexual relations in the last 5 years. So anamnesis is basically like a medical term, which suggested us that they not just discriminate, that we are not just facing with institutional discrimination, new institutional discrimination in new sphere in Serbia, but that they consider, Ministry of Health consider homosexuality as disease. So together with civil society organization Zaji, this is now filed a complaint to the Commissioner for the Protection of Equality, who found discrimination and recommended that the Ministry of Health harmonize the discriminatory provisions with the law of the prohibition of discrimination. And due to non-compliance with the recommendation, the Commissioner issued an official warning to Ministry of the Health at the end of last year. So in that situation, basically, like for civil society organizations, there is no other like options except maybe like starting case in front of court, but we tried with a little bit of advocacy. So at the beginning of the year, together with civil society organization partners, this is now organized a panel discussion on the discriminatory rulebook, which was attended by a representative of the Ministry of Health, who said that despite non-compliance of the Ministry with Commissioner's recommendations, there is common understanding of the problem and readiness to solve it. So in April, finally, in April this year, the Ministry of Health deleted the provision which stated that the donor cannot be a person with anamnesis of homosexual relations in the last 5 years. So we, as we demanded, and this ended 2 years of institutional discrimination against LGBT people regarding this issue. So this is one positive example that I wanted to share with you, how we managed to end this institutional discrimination, like a newly established institutional discrimination in our country.
Thank you very much, Milos. It's very and also for the recommendations that you shared in the beginning about the legal framework, the accompanying of a trusted person. I think that also reminds me of a very important issue: the fact that when survivors or victims of a hate incident report to the police, there is this common practice that when they are on their own, it's easier to get rid of them by the law enforcement that receives them in the first place, and that when survivors go to the police station, let's say with an NGO representative, then the whole behavior changes. It's like they are in front of a superior or in front of an institution that is going to hold them accountable. So I think it's very I hope that becomes a reality in the law. In Serbia and also in other countries, I think it's really amazing that the example that you shared, because it's we also are going to discuss this tomorrow on the issue of the rising anti-gender movement, but the demonization and the pathologization of LGBTI identities. Sometimes we feel like it's behind us, but it's actually right in the middle, and we have to be watchdogs of this horrendous, mentality, and that now tries to penetrate the law and the policies and protocols. So congratulations to the Serbian movement for this. Vladimir, I'll give you the floor right away with the question that I asked, but I just wanted to quickly say a big hi to everybody at the Izaji Community Center, because I know that Dasezna and Izaji are organizing a training with the community in Novi Sad right now, and that as part of today's training, they decided to stream this panel because we have you, amazing community leaders, who are sharing your experience. So hi to everybody, and I hope that the event is serving a purpose also for you there, and that you are enjoying and learning something today. Vladimir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mari. Thank you, Milos, and everyone else, working on these issues. You are real heroes and heroines of our age. So, and a big thanks also to the Pride Info Center people and the Dasezna crew, because they are organizing a safe space for every LGBTIQ person in Serbia. So thank you again. When it comes to the community of LGBTI people in migration, I would like to add something that I omitted before.
Did we lose Vladimir? I think we did.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so hopefully it will go well. CRPC is a community-based organization, but in our context, it means that we are with the refugees and asylum seekers all day. You cannot hear me.
No, we can hear you. Go on.
Okay. In every accommodation center, and even with the people sleeping rough. So we are very aware of the problems that they encounter, and this is how things are usually reported to us, in line with the solutions you actually wanted us to present. Something that CRPC has done before COVID in collaboration with ERA is organizing a capacity building for stakeholders in charge of migration, so as to make it more LGBTI sensitive. It went well. We received excellent reviews. It was also supported by the Commissioner for Protection and also the Ombudsperson and UNHCR. So all the mandated agencies were there. This is one of the solutions we would definitely advocate for, and that is constant capacity building of all involved in the migrations. The second one is when it comes to especially violent outings inside accommodations, we need to advocate for safe and fast relocations to other centers or private accommodation. And in the previous time, we can say that the state has been sensitive enough, but like in many areas, funding is missing, especially for persons willing, actually, who can legally be accommodated in private accommodation. UNHCR steps in and supports lots of LGBTIQ cases in such positions, but I would say that there is a definite need for more financial resources in this department.
Thank you, Vladimir. This is a very good example, and I think it also highlights the need for a multidisciplinary approach to the issue of access to justice. That, you know, intersectionality was also mentioned a bit earlier, but when we are talking about communities that come from a variety of contexts, like, you know, it could be refugees and migrants, it could be a Roma LGBT person, it could be other communities, people with disabilities, a queer person with disability living in an unfriendly environment or community. And I think that it's very important that resources allowing and organizations having the money and the time to do this kind of things, I think it's very important that these multidisciplinary trainings and multidisciplinary follow-ups are put into place. And this takes us also to the very first issue that Milos presented with the research, that we don't have the same access, and some communities are just way behind. And I think, for example, we could enforce cooperation, strengthen cooperation with local human rights organizations that operate in smaller towns, for example, and community centers, and sensitize them to use the reporting platforms and to collect hate crimes and to report them to the major organizations and to state institutions and so on. So thank you very much for this example. And now my question is for Seka. I wanted to hear a little bit about the perspective from, you know, again, I mentioned it, like when we look at the EU from the rest of the region, we think that things are resolved and there are no more problems, that the institutions are fair and democratic and the justice system is working and that there is money flowing from Brussels and whatnot. But we know that this is actually not the case, and it's much less the case for, you know, queer and LGBTI and trans communities and groups. So I wanted to hear about trans AIDS resilience in this regard, and how do they see where do they find the solutions, and what kind of resilience have they shown with regards to access to justice? Seka, you mentioned earlier the examples, but I want to know, how did you get to do that, and what do you need in addition?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not all resolved. It's just everything is differently packed. That's what I like to say. Like, it's almost the same, just differently packaged. But yeah, I think we had a better momentum to make changes when Croatia was about to enter the EU, and like shortly after it entered the EU, because everybody was eager to show to the EU that Croatia is worthy of entering, and, you know, everybody was really focused on this. But after that, you know, the enthusiasm dropped down, and also this wave of nationalism and anti-gender narratives, etc., that goes through Europe, also affected things in Croatia, of course, as well. In this regard, I don't think that you know, entering EU like this, we don't have really a good momentum at this point, because we're in the EU, everything's fine. We wrapped it all really beautifully, even on paper, you know, trans people on paper in comparison with other countries in the region, we're like, oh, everything's amazing. In practice, it's not so much. I mean, on paper, it's not perfect either, but you know, it's better than other countries in the region. So this is what, you know, stakeholders are holding on to, like, we're better, we're good, you know, we're doing something. But yeah, there is this stagnation right now and improvements, and also not just stagnation and improvements, but also we're going a few steps back where, you know, the LGR is becoming more pathologized. Access to health is becoming more discriminatory. They stopped covering top surgeries, which we used to have. Hormone therapy is not covered, etc., etc. So we're going back instead of, you know, our enjoyment in EU improving things. And when it comes to funding, what we in Translate found difficult is to actually find partners and to you know, write this huge EU project, because we're somewhere in between. We're not the region, we're not completely the EU, and then the most projects that we have access to is only for EU countries. So we cannot, for example, be partners with ERA on it. We have the same context, we are from the same region, you know, we could do this great thing, but no, you're not in the register in the EU country, so we cannot do this. And, you know, with some other organization, it's not the same context. We do have similar issues, but then again, you know, we have different systems, different approaches, maybe even, etc., etc. So yeah, funding wise, we even had like 2 EU projects before Croatia was in the EU. After we entered, we still didn't receive any grants. So yeah, it's a little bit, we're in a no man's land, I'd say.
I completely understand and I agree with you, Seka, and I think that also the other panelists are probably sharing a lot of similarities with the situation that you described, even though they might be a part of probably other funding schemes, such as within the EU. But one learning I get from your message is that we need to remember that access to justice is not the only thing that our organization, member organizations, and the movement is providing or trying to provide. There is access to health, there is access to education, access to houses, to housing, to legal protection, mental health and well-being, and then there is advocacy for legal improvements and for policy change, and there is the issue of hate speech and addressing hate speech and discrimination in the public forums, and then there is organization of prides and visibility. So how do we you know, prioritize, and how do we make sure that all of these things are being provided when our member organizations and the rest of the movement is under-resourced, burned out, exhausted, and so I think that it's what you just said right now, I think is very, very important reminder and message that the platform that we are promoting today is just one part of a very you know, busy circle of many other things that need to be achieved. And this is, I think, today we need to send that message again, and also to those who are not in this meeting, from governments and from donors, that access to justice should remain a top priority, because the safety and the well-being of our community is paramount. So I want to ask everybody in the panel also for their last inputs and their last message and demands later at the very end, in 20 minutes from now, for that part. I just want to speak again with Damla and to hear about their resilience, because we heard how complex and challenging the situation is, but we also know of the amazing work that you the movement is doing there. So Damla, I would like you to have like 3 to 4 minutes to give us some of these examples. I'm sorry with the time, I'm being a bit restrictive. But
I can understand.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Amari, again. Yeah, I told about you that impossibility to reach central government. So as Turkish LGBTI movement, we focus more on our local levels and try to strengthen ourselves and try to support LGBTI plus survivors as much as possible. In such cases. So in order to support victims or survivors in such cases, we determined as Couch Association, but it is also kind of a trend among the movement right now. We determined 5 main profession groups whom are in contact with LGBTI plus people while they are receiving services or while they are encountering any kind of problem. They have to apply those people. They are lawyers, mental health practitioners, social workers, teachers, and municipalities. You can understand why we chose those groups. Lawyers are so important. Mental health practitioners have to be trained, of course, and there are lots of hate crime cases or discrimination cases in schools, also in academy, so teachers are needed, and municipalities also provide lots of services, so they have to be aware of the situation. So in order to build their capacity, increase their knowledge and capability, we organize training sessions to those groups. We produce good practices, literature or guidance to how to be inclusive in practice of their work. Some things like that we do. Also, we try to strengthen our coordination with those groups. We have already a lawyers network, social workers network, or all of these profession groups. We have good connections thanks to our long-term activism, but we try to extend those networks with more and more sensitive lawyers or more and more knowledgeable social workers, for example. And these coordination groups also, they have their own communication groups for instant or emergency situations, so they can know what is the case and how they could coordinate all together. They're also in many different cities of Turkey, so it's kind of systematic system. And as a direct service aspect, many organizations, including ERA members like SPOT, May 17th Association, which is a new association and which will be a new ERA member, we hope, and your Young LGBTI Plus Association in Izmir, they give direct services to LGBTI Plus individuals in any kind of discrimination or violence cases. They have, for example, legal consultancy services, or they have direct psychosocial support services. Or in any case, we as Couch Association, for example, if we have an application from a LGBTI plus person, we try to provide communication between these lawyers or social workers between them, and we try to forward them, direct them to those networks. And also we try to increase our reporting system, because if we don't have any reports, there's also a comment in the question sessions, governments are not accountable at all what they are doing. So we have to report everything we can access or we can reach. My English is going, sorry. So Your Heard platform is also one of those steps, which I'm so glad that we have now. And besides, as I told you, as LGBTI plus activists or community members who are professional or voluntarily working in the field, we also need some kind of strengthen or well-being. So May 17th Association, for example, they created a new well-being program towards the community. Also, as activists, we can benefit from this program. Or during the quarantine time, we also created some urgent communication, or also some kind of strengthening communication groups as LGBTI associations representative. By this way, they could respond any kind of political crisis, for example. We can know each other's news. Also, they can respond LGBTI plus people's needs in any kind of case, like legal consultancy or something. So yes, I guess I have my 4 minutes already.
I'm sorry that you had to do it within a heartbeat, but I thank you so much for these ideas, and I'm sure that in addition to CAUSGL, who is a very strong, well-established organization, also other LGBTI groups who are not here are also finding other creative ways, and I just commend you on that resilience and on that resistance to such harsh oppression. And one message that I'm taking, and I think I'm not the only one that I'm taking from your examples, is the part about mental health and well-being. I think that for LGBTI organizations and partners and allies, whoever works on assisting survivors of hate crimes and incidents, they have their own trauma, they have their own issues to deal with when they deal with such difficult issues. And I think that it's important that in future activities, organizations who can ask for funding and can get funding and support to also add this element of the well-being of the individuals that are providing assistance to hate crime survivors, because they are also part of that trauma and part of that the impact that those incidents have on them. And if imagine yourself as an individual who is collecting, analyzing, and addressing, for example, hate incidents, and the psychological impact it has on you. We have 15 minutes left, and the last 5 I want to give again to the panelists, but I want to use this remaining 10 minutes. And remember, we have for the members, we have the thematic meeting at 2, so we can keep the conversation and you can raise other points there. But for now, is there any questions for our amazing panelists? And if there isn't, I understand, because they said so much and they shared so much knowledge and expertise and ideas. But if there are any questions, please do. Or comments or reflections. It doesn't have to be a question. I understand that we are also before lunch for many of you, and oh, Leanne, yes, please. Thank you for breaking the ice.
I'm always good for breaking the ice, as you know. I mean, what a fascinating morning. I can't imagine a better way to spend it. But one of the things that it really makes me reflect on is actually taking a holistic approach, and how it is that in many instances, civil society is being left to do what government should be doing. And I really, really like the intervention from the colleagues from the European Commission. Now that we're not in Europe, I have a different view, obviously, of how I should comment on them. But I think it's really important to listen hard to what they were saying. She was saying about the funding apparatus, because we're hearing the same thing in the UK. There seems to be a tendency now, because of the pandemic and the COVID situation and the global financial collapse, whatever, the funding is restricted. And we are hearing some similar things about the importance of working intersectionally and to integrate and try to work with more quote unquote mainstream organizations, which I think will land differently in different contexts. But I think it's important to listen hard to that, because I think that, you know, having done this kind of work for many, many, many years, I do find that this cycle with the anti-gender movement, probably one of the most worrying I've seen, because we did deliver in many respects on the promise of tackling, building the architecture, getting in place the legislation, creeping towards all of those system level things that we know are needed to deliver on our own rights and dignity. But I guess the thing that I'm worried about is we've got this incredible tool, we're going to have the evidence, but it's the rest of it, looking after ourselves and also tackling with something which is a huge, huge force that is definitely very real for us at Stonewall in the United Kingdom, which is the anti-gender movement. So I think after this, tying together this today with what you're speaking about tomorrow in the anti-gender movement would be really, really welcome. So it's more of a comment than anything else, but also to express my deep gratitude for people in the group having shared so candidly what's going on in your context. And we have some fairly shared spaces here in the UK, I'm sad to say. So thank you and bravo.
Thank you so much, Leanne, and also thank you for highlighting some of the main points of today's panel. And I think your comment also makes me remember another important thing: the fact that we are seeing an increase in violence in general. We are seeing a violence against women. A recent report about journalists is horrific. It's terrifying. Like, journalists, especially since Trump entered his office, have become targets of some, and they are the ones that are safeguarding democracies and all over the world. And I think that our approach needs also to be very clear of the fact that we need to increase pressure to those who have the money, who are sitting in the powerful round tables, that they need to remember that this issue is not fading away, like you said, because there are some cute laws out there, and there is some nice speech here and there, and then, you know, people are, oh, okay, I'm not going to discriminate, I'm not going to kill, I'm not going to attack my queer neighbor that I can't stand because somebody in the podium told me I shouldn't, as if. So we need to really remember, and again, like you said, with the anti-gender movement, I think that we are entering this era of lunacy, where, I mean, the conspirationalists all over the world are invading the online spaces with all sorts of. The last thing I heard is that LGBTI people are reptilians, that they are coming here to, like, you know, to bring the message from aliens from outer space. I mean, it's insane, the amount of misinformation. And misinformation is, I think, also one of the major sources of hate crime at this point in time, because people are afraid of LGBTI people and diversity and minorities. So thank you for bringing that, and I think up. And tomorrow we have the panel on the anti-gender movement. So I invite everybody who is here today to come and to share their ideas, because yeah, they are all interlinked. None of this is a separate issue as such. Independent. Okay, unless there is some other question or comment, I want to give this last minutes to our panelists again, because I want them to make a concluding remark, a reflection of 1 to 2 minutes. You know, what they took from this panel, and if they have one or more demands for governments and for state institutions and for whoever has power on how to deal with this issue. So Milos, you can go first.
I didn't think about some concluding remarks. I would say that it seems to me that we are having much similar experience with Croatia, with strategic litigations. It seems very familiar with me, that never-ending processes, and also with Turkey. It seems to me that people underestimate, like, how much it's difficult to work with competent authorities here in Serbia, how much they are not responsive, especially Ministry of Interior. They are very close. Like, it's very difficult to, in Serbian context, do any kind of serious advocacy because of declining democracy in our country. So yeah, that is something that and some message for state officials will be opening up, of course, for projects and initiatives with civil society organizations. We can't really do anything. We are planning actually to strengthen our cooperation with police officers who are dedicated for cooperation with the LGBT community. But you know, since they are functioning this very hierarchical structure, they need for every meeting, like permission basically from Minister of the Interior. So yeah, basically, like that would be very helpful. Some opening up for civil society organizations, and for some real partnership, not just one directional communication where they call us and we are just the source of information about incidents. About it must be go in both direction, and must be a real partnership, and not some kind of like a cooperation where we are feeling used. Yeah, that is something that I feel and think in this moment.
Excellent point, Milos. Excellent point. To see us as partners and that we have a role that has to be sustainable, systematic, and very well integrated into the institutional response, framework response. Thank you so much for your concluding remarks. Okay, Vladimir, for you. Each has no more than 2 minutes.
I will be short because I don't have any demands for now for any state authority, because I have a demand for our community. We're living in hard times, and we need to cherish solidarity more than ever. And we need to respect each other and jointly approach every issue that we tackle, because our brothers and sisters and all the people in between are in trouble, from Turkey to, Canada. So this is my message in the end. Let's stay together.
We hear you, yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Vladimir. This is a very beautiful message, and it's always important to be reminded of why we're doing this and the importance of being together. We're not alone, and that's very beautiful. Seka.
I'd rather leave it on Vladimir's words. It's hard to, continue after the two of them, because everything they said, I can just confirm. We need to be heard by our governments, and they need to open up to us and not see us as a threat, not see us as non-professionals who don't know what they're doing, but see us as partners, as people who know what our community needs. And also to our community, just what Vladimir said, being together means being resilient, and we need this right now. Thank you all.
Thank you. And I feel like we just got the opening part of our demands for the governments and the other stakeholders that we are holding next week on the 28th, and the document that is going to go out after that. I think it's going to be entitled Open Up, because I can't think of a better, more striking 2 words, sentence and statement. Open up and see us as partners, give us some trust, give us the respect we deserve. I really love the message, and it's really fantastic. Okay, Damla.
Yes, as I told you, in governmental level, we don't have any hope. We need only a revolution, but I guess we cannot do it all together. But as a society, I agree with my friends. We need more international solidarity here. We saw the importance and how strengthening to feel you over there as a regional platforms or our international colleagues. During Istanbul Convention withdrawal process, for example, we saw how strong is our community and how we are supported and we are heard by our community, our own. It's really strengthening for us as activists. And I'm not talking about just EU or UN institutions, because they are not going beyond to be so concerned in such crisis. But we can use their funding, as our colleague Seka, they told that we can push all together, and if we can raise our voice, all together, and if we can beg for money all together, I guess we can get it more easily. So we have to strengthen our international solidarity, I can say. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think I couldn't think of a better ending of this, of today's panel. And I think I feel I think many will agree with my statement that this is a very pressing issue. We need to be united as a front. There are the You Are Heard platform is literally for us as a regional actors. It's just one of the many things that maybe we can support with and we can push forward. But there is so much to tackle, from government engagement to justice sector functioning and being open and being aware, to public attitudes changing, to organizations being resourced and having the sources, having the capacities, having the operational also funds to work on such an important topic. So I thank you very much for your contributions. And for everybody who joined and everybody who contributed. For the members, there is this closed meeting at 2 that we can maybe reflect a little bit more and talk a little bit about what we could do as a network, as follow-up steps, or what should we prioritize for the coming months and years. I think a lot of the things were already mentioned, but I think we could discuss a little bit more in a more intimate setting among the members to share also maybe thoughts that are not necessarily to share with the wider public as such. And tomorrow, please remember that we have the anti-gender panel, which I think is going to be very, very interesting as well. And looking forward to seeing all of you there. Thank you, and enjoy your lunch breaks. Bye.
Amari, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
I think you should stop recording, but
oh yes, sorry.
brilliant.
Thank you.
And also Facebook.